Om Shanti. That was a very long introduction, I have to say, Sister Madhuri. But anyway, thank you. And yes, it's a very important subject for all of us at the present time, because if I look around, then I know that maybe one of the big issues for men and women, I won't just say women, but I think it's men also, is the insecurity that you feel within yourself. And that, of course, manifests in all sorts of unpleasant behaviors. It could be just inferiority complex in which you're submissive, as was being talked about earlier, or it could also go the other way. That insecurity makes you want to control. Yes, when there are ego issues and control issues, they stem from a very deep insecurity because you're scared, you're afraid, and you don't know how things are going to work out. So the instinctive human response is to try and control. And that means try and controlling others, try and controlling situations. But are you able to control anyone else? No way. And are you able to control situations? Well, just look at the state of the world. Just look at the state of your own household. Are you able to control situations? Whether it's the gas and electricity bills, or whether it's food prices, or whether it's just the question of the weather outside. We have no control over circumstances and situations. The one thing we do have control over is ourselves, our own inner world, and whatever it is that's going on inside there. And so a total contrast to the whole subject of actually having that insecurity is having courage. And courage comes from faith. When I know myself and I trust myself, I have faith in myself, there are no doors that are closed. I can go through any situation, but I can also fly up above and reach my own highest destination. So let's begin the subject with just a moment of silence. Thank you. A question to everyone, and this is not just for the new ones who are joining us for the first or second time, but it's actually a question for everyone, even if you have been a meditator for decades. And the question is, how well do I know myself? I started Raj Yoga when I was 19, and I can say that definitely up until the age of 60, I was still discovering more and more new things about myself. And now I'm 72, nearly 73. And I think that there's still a few more discoveries I will need to make about myself. So it is a long journey, but the start of the journey is to know that I have two sides at the moment. I have that side which is beautiful and charismatic and lovely and very attractive and pleasing. I'm not talking about external things, I'm talking about personality things. But then there's also the other side, and that's the dark side. And in the dark side, maybe there's some temper, and maybe I've hidden away that temper so that externally there seems to be a lot of sweetness and it's fine. But internally, I'm reacting to people, to things, to situations. And because of that inner reaction, I'm actually bottling up things within me. And they're festering because maybe I don't have the courage to express these things. But it's going to cause me issues with my physical health and certainly with my emotional health. And so I need to be able to see both sides. I need to be able to see the dark side as well as the bright side. There was a little exercise that my mentor, Daddy Jayanti, who passed away a couple of years ago, age 104, she used to do with a group of us. Not the same group every time, but if it was a small, manageable group, she'd have us do it together in a group and then another group, another group. And she would ask us to write down what it is which is bright in us, the good side, and what is it that is the dark side, the not so good. And it was very interesting because some people would begin with the dark side, and having written a lot of things there, they would still be just thinking, and Daddy would prompt them and say, well, have you finished? And they'll say, Daddy, I can't think of anything good in me. And I was sad, but it was a step towards discovery. And then there would be other people who would very quickly write down all the good things that they saw in themselves. And they'd say, well, I can't really see anything that's so wrong. I don't know, maybe there is, but I really can't see it. So two very different personalities, but both of them need to go on a journey within. And when I go on that inner journey, the spiritual journey, and I get to know myself, the first thing I discover about myself is how beautiful I am. I discover that my original state of being is of peace, of purity, of love, of truth, of joy. And it's very beautiful experiencing these in meditation. And I'm convinced that, yes, these are the qualities that I can uncover within myself when I become aware of the inner being, the eternal being, the being of light, the soul that I am. And in this awareness of the soul, then it feels very natural and easy to feel the presence of the divine, the supreme soul, the source. And we've shown a little image of this point of light in the corner. And this symbolizes every soul. So every soul resides here in the center of the forehead and sparkles and shines when there's awareness. And when there isn't awareness, then it's as if a few clouds have come over it, and so that sparkle and shine is not clearly visible, not even to the self, never mind to others. But this is also the symbol of the divine, the source, the supreme being, the being who is being of eternal light. The light of the soul sometimes goes out, but the light of God is forever. And so we've kept that image to remind ourselves of the inner being, the self, but also the symbolism for the divine, the being of light. And if you check it out, you'll see that through all the ages, for millennia, people of ancient traditions, modern traditions, the main religions, everybody has spoken about God as the light. And of course, it's not a physical light like these spotlights, but The Supreme Being is the source of all goodness, and that being radiates a living energy, which seems to be an energy of light. So I'm keeping that in the corner, just so that we can keep reminding ourselves, I am that shining light, but also God, the Supreme Light, is with me. And in appearance, both are the same. All souls look the same. The point of light, God, also looks the same. Differences in qualities. And in that connection with the divine in meditation, it's like the sunshine comes over me and my own inner qualities blossom. And I'm in touch with my real self, a being that is absolutely radiant, filled with that love and truth and joy. Very easy to get there. Come to the awareness of the soul, connect with the Supreme Soul, and just see for yourself what happens. We'll try a little meditation later on. But for now, yes, just experiment with it. And even now, as you're listening, try feeling yourself located here and listen not just with these ears, but listen with the awareness of who I truly am. And so this inner journey gives me that trust and confidence in myself that there is goodness within me. But of course, I have to be in the awareness of spirituality, myself and the Supreme, to actually allow that to blossom and flourish and then be visible in my life and in my actions. When I do this, I can then look at myself and look at the list that I had made, the positive or the negative, the superiority complex or the inferiority complex, whichever. But in this awareness of who I truly am, I'll be able to look at the self very differently. I look at the negative traits, and where earlier maybe I'd said, I don't know, I don't think I have any, either negative or I don't think I've got anything good in me, I don't have anything positive. So I'll be able to fit in something within that missing sector. There are negative things within the soul which I hadn't been ready to acknowledge in the awareness of the body and my physical identity. But now in my spiritual consciousness, I can note down a few things on that side. And if earlier I'd said, I can't see any good in me, well, the fact that I'm connecting with that goodness, I'm experiencing it, I'm feeling the peace, I'm feeling the truth and the joy. In that experience, of course, I know that this is the goodness that is there within. So I can never say, there's only darkness, there isn't any light. Maybe before I started my inner journey, that would have been true. But as soon as I begin my spiritual journey, I'm in contact with these original qualities. I'll say, yes, this is who I used to be. And this is what I would like to be once again. And the courage that comes from this statement is something that comes deep from within the heart. It's not because you're in company with somebody powerful or because there's a group of you and you all decided to do something together and you have the courage to do it. No, it doesn't depend on any of those external factors. It's because I've now recognized my own inner goodness. And so this is what I want to be all the time. All the time. When I was young, by the time we were 12, 13, we were already being asked to think about careers and subjects to focus on. Even before, in those days, you called them O levels and A levels. Now there's different terminology. But even when choosing your O levels, and it was like a list of 9 that you had to choose, even then we were asked to think about what our future career would be. So you made your choice according to that. And then, of course, by the time you were ready to select your A-level subjects, you had a pretty clear idea of what it is you wanted to do. Why I say this is because when we're thinking about the courage to be myself, we usually, well, as a teenager, you're told it's totally dependent on your career, your profession, whatever choice you make. And is that really the case? If I have the label, I'm a doctor, what does that tell me about me? And what does it tell you about you or about me? You see my label, but that's not my personality. Probably many of you have now got a medical practice that you belong to, and maybe there's 5 doctors, and you don't know who you're going to get when you go for your next appointment. You're just lucky to get an appointment. And you go for your appointment, and today it's one, the next day it's another, and the next day it's somebody else. All carry the label doctor, but each one has a very different personality. And so the label architect, engineer, bank manager, doctor only describes the work that you're doing for a certain number of hours. That's it. That's your job description. It doesn't describe you on any level whatsoever. There are engineers who are deeply spiritual, but through their working time, they're just looking at logistics, external things, measurements, weight, height, length, breadth, width, and all the other minute details in whatever it is they do. But who is that person under that label? Then you begin to speak to them, you get to know them, and you realize this is a deeply spiritual person, even though they've chosen a topic which is very external. But they, as a being, are separate to that particular profession, or even my identity in terms of relationships. I'm a daughter. Well, how many daughters are there in the world? Half the world's population has been a daughter or is a daughter or whatever. How much does it describe about me? Nothing. Think of any of the labels that we use to identify people, and you'll see that it's all external. There's nothing that you hear or understand about the inner being of this human who's being introduced to you in this particular way. The wife of so-and-so, the daughter of so-and-so, the husband of so-and-so. Labels, labels, labels. And yes, within the context of work, it's important to remember the label. But that doesn't tell me who I am and who I would like to be. When I decided to follow a spiritual path, I was 19, and I really had no idea of what lay ahead of me. But the motivation was the experience of the soul and the experience of God's love. And there were lots of people who would try to dissuade me from following this particular path. They said, it would be too taxing, it would be too much effort, I would have to adjust with many, many people, all of which is true. But it didn't matter. I wasn't interested in those things. I was interested in the experience that I'd had of the soul and of God. And I wanted to be able to continue with that and take it further and further. So this journey today, knowing myself and being able to see both sides of my personality, and then to know that if I want to achieve that which is the highest potential within my own personality, through certain disciplines, I have to observe certain guidelines I have to understand and follow. But if my passion is now to be the best that I can be in terms of who I am, then that courage comes in a very natural way. In fact, what I've noticed is that at a time when you're doing something really courageous, you don't feel it. You don't think, I need courage to be able to do this. It doesn't seem to work like that. It seems to be that circumstances are around you and you've decided on something which is a little bit different to the norm. And so people get a bit scared. When you're following the normal, accepted formula and pattern, you get your degree, you get your job, you get married, you have children, and then you have a comfortable life, basically. That's the assumption. But of course, it doesn't always work out quite like that. Circumstances interfere in my own personal life and my own give and take, which we call karmic accounts. My give and take with others is called karma. I can't predict how that's going to work out. But most of all, there's no way I can predict what's going to be happening in the world. And so I can't chart out a future scenario in which I'll say this and this and this and this and this is going to happen. I just don't know. But that's not the point. The point is, am I going to follow the path that is accepted by all as being normal? Or is there something within me that says, well, that's fine, I'll do all of that. I'll get a job, I'll get a house, I'll get a mortgage, I'll do all of that. But there's something that's stirring within me that needs to be fulfilled, and I need to recognize that. And so when I decide that, yes, that little glimpse I've had of who I am, and that glimpse that I want to allow to actually become brighter and brighter so that I can see very clearly for myself and manifest it in my life. That'll happen as I continue to travel the spiritual path whilst doing whatever else it is I'm engaged in. So it isn't that I have to set aside the world. I did, but you don't have to. You don't have to set aside the world and say, now I'm going to put on special robes and become a spiritual person. No. Whether I know it or not, I am a spiritual being. You know, they say, am I a human beginning my spiritual journey, or am I a spiritual being on a human journey? And the second is the one that is correct. I am a spiritual being. This is why I can talk to you, I can connect with you, I can remember you, and we can have a relationship. The body on its own wouldn't be able to do any of this. The Hindi word's very interesting. Rathi, the charioteer in this chariot, and the corpse is called Arthi, a Rathi. The chariot is there, but the driver, the charioteer, is missing. And so then we say there's no life. And so when I begin to be aware of I, the charioteer, inside this chariot, then that spark which has just been ignited becomes the passion that I want to develop. I want to be able to see where this takes me. I don't have a destination that's clear, but I'm enjoying the journey. I want to allow this light to continue to grow. And I feel the difference in my life instantly, where before there was maybe a bit of a muddle, maybe a bit of confusion. Maybe there were so many influences working on me that I didn't even actually see them and acknowledge them because I was too much under their shadow. Their influence was so strong, I didn't even recognize what it was. But now, in the awareness of a spiritual being on a human journey, now I just say, I want this light to become brighter and brighter. And I want this light to be able to show me the path ahead. But I also want to share this light with all others who I know would benefit from that light. And so now my goal isn't getting a big house or even a small house. My goal isn't just getting a degree or awards for whatever I've accomplished. My goal is very different. And I'll do all those other things in good time. But I want to be able to focus on this, which has now become the most important thing for me. And so, yes, it will be challenged by people around you. They'll tell you it's a waste of time. You don't need to think about these things now. You can think about them when you're 60 years old. Or if you are 60 years old, they'll say, you don't have to give your time to this. Your time is too precious. You have very little time left. You don't need to give your time to this. So whether you're young or whether you're old, there'll always be people who try to dissuade you because they're scared of anything new. This is why they're trying to shift your consciousness. And you don't have to get into debate or argument with them, but you know that you will do whatever it is your heart is signaling you to do. And you'll deal with all the noises that come your way from here and there and everywhere. In that search for yourself and truth and God, somehow you're touched with the right answers that will satisfy the people around you so that they become a little bit softer in their relationship with you. They're no longer so possessive and harsh. But you'll also be able to allay their fears and say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to shed my responsibilities. But you know that you are different. But yes, externally, you have to continue with whatever. A woodcutter went to the Buddha to say, Master, tell me what I should do to be enlightened. And the master said, what you do now, I cut wood 8 hours a day, and the rest I give to my family and my sleep and my needs. And the master said, okay, carry on continuing with cutting wood 8 hours a day and all the other things that you do. And the man said, but there's no change. How am I going to be enlightened? And the master said, all you have to do is to be the light that you are and keep shining that light whilst you cut the wood, whilst you're with your family, whilst you do everything else that you're doing. So no external change is needed. Just keep the light shining and increase the brightness of that light through your own awareness and your connection with the divine. And so externally, now that those around you were making horrible noises about, don't go here, don't do this, don't do that, you'll be able to smile at them and say, I'm doing everything I need to do, but now I'm doing it with a great deal more happiness and peace. And when they see that in your life, they'll support you. They'll let you move ahead and carry on. And it takes a little bit of time for that light to shine brightly enough for them to notice it. So meanwhile, just keep doing what you need to do, but each day pour in more and more oil into the flame so that the light becomes brighter and brighter and keeps shining, and it'll guide your path ahead. And the biggest challenges that come are not the challenges that come from outside. When it's people you don't know very well and they comment about your new diet, you might want to try a vegetarian diet, your new timetable, you want to wake up early in the morning. So when people challenge you about these things and they're not so close, you just smile and just, it'll pass by. It won't impact you at all. But of course, when it's people you're living with at home, now they see what you're up to, and they see that this isn't just a hobby that you have for a day or two. It's not a new fad that you're following, but it's something that you're really committed to. At that point also, they don't like it until they see that transformation in which they can see the better part of you emerging more and more. And they see that part which was negative before, they see that part reducing more and more, so that now you're very patient. Maybe earlier you were very impatient. So today you're happy, and maybe earlier you're a bit dour, not so happy. Maybe now you're loving, whereas before you were maybe a little bit cold. So when they see positive changes that support the family, then they'll say, there must be something good that you're doing. And so to change people around you is not so difficult. They begin to appreciate what's going on inside of you and how you're dealing with things differently than you used to. The biggest challenges and the courage to deal with those, the ones that come from within. I did not know that I had sanskars, personality traits of anger, because I wasn't in a situation where that had been triggered. And I discover I have anger. I didn't know that attachment was such a big issue. And now I realize that, yes, I am attached and I have to deal with that. Ego. Most of us never ever think that we have ego. We're just playing our role, doing whatever is expected and demanded. And I start exploring, well, why did I say this? What was the consciousness in which I said it? What were the privileges that I was enjoying that made me behave in a particular way? All of us have ego. In fact, I would say all of us have everything. We have all those beautiful positive qualities, but we have all the negative also. And of course, they manifest in different ways at different times. There are times when my anger is more visible than other times. There are times when my ego is more visible than at other times. But we're all dealing with the same pot, really. And so that's one thing that gives comfort when you're confronted by your ego or your anger. Okay, I know it's there, but I'm glad that I now realize it. I hadn't realized it earlier. But we're all in the same pot together. pot, boat. Are we in a pot? I think we're in a pot more than in a boat, because the pot is just sitting there, not going anywhere. The boat is moving. When I move out of the pot into the boat, that's a good sign. But generally, when I discover that we all have to deal with the same things that are there within, at first it's a matter of comfort. Okay, I'm not the only one. But then I don't want to stay in that pot forever. I'd like to take a jump and come out of that pot and out into the open. When I'm in the pot and I see others in the pot, then I say, well, we're all the same. Everybody has ego. Everybody has attachment. Everybody's the same. True. But do I want to stay there? Or do I want to move towards the glimpse of truth that I had, in which I experienced that peace and that love within myself? And I want to be able to express that more and more. And so that pure thought of transformation and removing negativity from myself allows me to move out of that pot. And I'm now free. I can see much, much more than I would have before. In the pot, I was there with others who were also in the pot, and so we weren't able to help each other. But God's grace and my own pure, deep desire for change has lifted me out. But now I'm seeing that I have to deal with all these traits that I carry that are not very pleasant for me, and definitely not very pleasant for others who are living with me or working with me or are friends with me. It impacts all of them in a certain way or another. And so the courage at that time comes from knowing that my own original state of being is of that glimpse that I had, the pure original state. It tells me that it's there within me, but I just need to change a few things to allow it to again manifest and to deal with all the thorns that are pricking me and causing me to prick others also. And so faith in the self that, yes, I am that original soul. And through my journey, I've carried a bit of rust. I've accumulated a good bit of that rust. And how do I get rid of that? The more I connect with the divine, the more God's influence is able to flow over me, the more I become clean and all that rust is removed. It's either removed through the fire of yoga, that pure love for God that allows that rust to be removed, or another analogy, it can be removed with the water of love. God is the ocean of love, and God's love is able to pour over me, and that also washes away all the accumulation of dust that I have. So, facing myself, but not alone, facing myself with God's love and strength is a magic formula. And I think this is why our first experience of meditation is that sweetness of peace and love, to give us that hope, that courage to be able to move forward. And so as I continue with that journey, I realize how deep are those traits that I thought I would deal with quite quickly. And it's not going away quickly. It's still lingering on after many years. And I'm still discovering nuances that I wasn't aware of before. But it's okay. Continue to hold God's hand. And the hand is not a physical hand. It's the hand of spiritual disciplines. When I continue to follow spiritual disciplines in my life, in terms of my timetable, my food, my drink, the quality of work I do, the interaction I have with others, There are guidelines for all of these things if I'm serious about a spiritual journey. And as I continue to move forward, following those principles and disciplines, my experience grows more profound, both in terms of the process of cleaning and the burning away of the rubbish, but also the experience of all the benefit I've taken from God. I experience the spiritual power that God is able to give me. I experience those original qualities that are there within me, but I'd forgotten, and so I was out of touch. But now in that connection with God, God's love again gives me that determination and that total faith that, yes, all of the rubbish will be removed and the goodness will be able to shine. And I'll be receiving a huge amount of support through God's light, God's wisdom, God's love, God's power. All of this becomes available for me. And the transformation can happen as quickly as I wish it to happen, or as slowly if I'm not aware completely. Then it becomes slow, 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 but it doesn't have to be slow. It can be very fast. So what else am I going to face? Maybe I hadn't realized how dependent I was, on people, and the courage to be able to let go of that dependency so that I can allow my own light to shine. When I'm dependent on another, they cast a shadow over me, and I don't realize it at that time. But I'm not progressing. I'm not experiencing the happiness, the love that I keep getting a glimpse of, but I'm not able to retain it all the time. And so I look around to see, well, what else is going on? And I realize I am extremely dependent on many others around me. And their shadow is coming in the way. Dependency means being under their shadow. And that shadow doesn't allow God's light to reach me. And so I decide, I'm not going to leave them, but internally, I must make sure that all that I need, I can take from God. Possible? Yes, of course. God says, all my treasures are for you. Everything that I have, whether it's compassion, whether it's power, whether it's love, just come to me, connect with me, and it's all there for you to take as much as you can. My own inhibitions prevent me from taking it all, but let me let go of my dependencies. And of course, relationships are the big ones, big dependencies. But other things, physical things. What happens if I can't find my phone? That's when you realize how dependent you are on your phone. And yes, it's great to be able to have devices that can help you and maybe save you time, maybe not save you time. I wonder sometimes all these gadgets were supposed to save us time, but I'm not sure that that's how it's working. But that aside, yes, when I have it, I use it. And when I keep it to one side for an hour, a few hours, it's okay. The world is still going to be there, even if I don't touch my gadget for a few hours. Let me do what I need to do. Let me focus on what I need to focus. Then, yes, it's there for me to use. But am I dependent on it? Is it the first thing I do when I wake up? And is it the last thing I do before I go to sleep? Well, that might be the sign of dependency. And so early morning, I don't want to be looking at my device. I want my mind to be able to connect with the one above. I want my mind to be able to experience that radiance of truth and light and love. I don't need to look at my phone at that time. I can see it later. And so the courage to say to myself, it's okay. I don't need this. So different things that we're dependent on. Let me make a list and let me see if I can cross out one by one all the things that I'm dependent on. Why? Because I don't know what circumstances are going to come in my life personally or in the world around me that will take away the people or the things that I'm dependent on. I don't want to be left abandoned in that condition. But today, I can build up a relationship with the divine so that I'm taking all that I need from the divine, and I'm not dependent, and I'm not going to be bereft when something happens. So again and again, let me see what's holding back my spiritual journey. Waste thoughts. Now that takes a lot of courage to say, I don't want to have waste thoughts anymore. Things that are waste and negative, I don't want to engage in those things. Things that are none of my business, things that are wasting my time and energy, no, not useful. But I need courage to look at myself and see where is the leakage happening. And as I explore this and I move further and further along, I'll find myself happier and stronger and more beautiful than ever. But the most important thing, in order to have faith in myself, I need to be able to align my thinking and my doing. I have powerful thoughts, beautiful thoughts, and then when it comes to action, I say, but because of this, because of that, because of this one, because of that one, I couldn't actually do it. If it's a good thought, it's a pure thought, it's a beneficial, benevolent thought, why not? Let me have the courage to say, yes, this is what I need to do. Example, everybody will agree that truth is important, that honesty is part of that package. And yet, we find ourselves in situations where we're not always able to speak the truth. And it's not right just to blurt out the truth under any circumstance and find that you're creating more trouble. That's not useful. But I know what is true, and I want to follow that path. No announcements, no big deal, but that is where I want to go. And so the courage to go against the tide, because at the moment, the tide is not in the direction of truth or honesty. Everything's about image. Everything is about the external portrayal rather than what is true and right. But I don't want to be part of that. I want to do that which is really truthful. And so quietly, taking power from God, I want to be able to follow that path which is less traveled. I know that God will help me. I also know that I can only speak about it at an appropriate moment. I don't need to be announcing it from the rooftops. And so I'll bide my time. I'll do what I need to do, but I'll tell others who need to know quietly at the right moment. And I'll find that, yes, it is possible to have the courage to follow my own inner compass and move in the direction of truth, no matter what. And so, courage to be yourself means the courage to come back to your original, beautiful, pure, highest potential, which is there within the soul, within every soul. And so to be able to feel it, see it, and then to keep moving forward in the direction to be able to express it and realize it and manifest it, that is the journey. So I'm not sure whether you thought that this talk was going to be about how to have the courage to become an Olympic gold medalist, or whether you thought this was going to be a talk that inspires you to decide to get married or decide to unmarry. Well, all those are external things that following a spiritual path will help you deal with those things and help you understand those things. But everybody's in a very, very different situation. But the one thing that we can all do is move towards our own inner highest goals. Externally, how that gets expressed in your life and in your karmic situation, you'll be able to understand yourself through following the spiritual path. Then you know what it is you need to do with your friends, your family, your workplace, and all of that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sister Jayanti. That was really beautiful. And everyone seems to have really enjoyed it. And you've touched so many souls. So there are lovely comments coming through. We do have a few questions. But before I start the questions, my dear brothers and sisters, lots of you have written to me and said, how do we connect to God, etc. So all I would say to you at this point is we offer free courses, okay, to everyone, Raj Yoga meditation course, lots of other courses. If you connect with me, I have put my email address down there. If you connect with me in the first place, I will send you the links, okay? And remember, all our courses are free of charge. So please do take this on, okay? It's up to you. Right, so going to questions now. Sister Jayanti, we've got a few. Some of them are, well, in fact, most of them are anonymous, but this one I'm just going to read out. The first one is from Marguerite. And this sister has been struggling a lot because obviously she was in a very close family environment. And basically her question is how to cope at a later age of complete abandonment of the family. So they've all seemed to have left her on her own, and physically, obviously, she's not in a good position. Any words for her?
I would suggest that you create that relationship with God in which you truly feel God's presence with you. And everyone can do this. This is not the right of just a select handful. It is everyone's right, and yours especially. And because now you're on your own, no distractions. Don't think about all the negative sides of who's going to do my shopping, who's going to do my laundry. Wait. All of that would get dealt with. But first of all, just realize that you're free. You don't have to think about anyone else. You can just make that connection with the divine and let yourself feel God's light, God's love, God's power. And as you begin to feel that and you radiate that more and more, you'll find that there are others who will come forward to help you. And your help to them will be by sharing the light of who you are. And so they will benefit. I've seen two types of people. One, a person who's alone and they feel very lonely and they complain and moan and groan about why this, why that, why the other. And when we look around to see if there is somebody who can help them, everybody's too busy. And then there's the other type of person. They're also physically alone and they have several things to deal with in terms of health issues. But they stay light and bright. And they always have a smile and they always have a good word for everyone. And they don't complain. And they're just experiencing God's love. And people say, I have an hour. Can I go and help them? And that's how it happens. People are drawn to give help where they feel that there is that positive energy. They themselves have plenty of their own problems. So if somebody is creating energy which is not so positive, then they'll think twice about giving time to them. And so just experience the benefit, the upside, the bright side of your situation. Otherwise, people with big families, and there's no time for the self. There's no time to be able to experience God's light and love because you're so busy. Everybody's demanding their time and energy on the horizontal level. But you've been made free. And so now take that opportunity to develop the vertical connection. And you'll find that physical help comes very easily.
I so agree with that. Really, Marguerite, I think you and I have spoken in the past about similar things, and I think we're all sharing the same sort of suggestions. So please do have faith and take this up, okay? Try it for now, and really that relationship with him up there, him, her, whatever, it's very important, and you will see you will be in such a good place. You will lose that dependency which is there, and yes, totally agree with this. So please, Marguerite, promise me you will try. Okay, so anonymous question here. The sister is saying, I had gone through severe verbal abuse since childhood and had to learn to block it out as I grew up. That also included myself. So I have a real problem going inwards. I do not wish to look inwards. It brings a lot of pain. How do I move forward in this? How do I help myself?
Start having a positive conversation with yourself. Say to yourself, I am God's child. God's qualities are my birthright. That is my inheritance from God. And so I want to take God's light, God's love, God's blessings. And so talk to yourself in this way. And you'll find that in a very gentle way, your mind is moving in the right direction. If you say, I just want to go inside, then yes, there's memories of pain and sorrow that are there, but keep going, deeper, deeper, deeper. And the easy way to go deeper and deeper is a conversation with God. And so have a conversation with God, and you'll get to the depth of the soul in which there is that beauty and goodness, and start loving yourself. You are God's child. You are a shining star. You are a jewel. And so just remind yourself of all of this. These are not just words, these are a reality. Because yes, we are all God's children, but so many of the world have forgotten this. And so today I'm reminded, I am remembering that I am God's child. And so whatever were the other things that happened in your life, those were part of the narrative at that time. Well, that's finished now. Now you're an adult, and now you can begin a new relationship in which God plays an active part in your healing and your transformation. God is the supreme doctor. God is the healer. God truly gives you such love that all the scars and wounds become healed. Truly, you'll feel that experience.
That is so true and so beautifully put, because I've owned up before that I was one of the biggest skeptics, generally in world. And I can tell you, this has totally transformed my life. And if I can do it, and if I can feel that, I promise you will. So do take this opportunity. Oh, one thing, our Sister Jayanti has done loads of lovely meditations. Sister Jayanti, there are other yogis as well, okay? So if you type up Brahma Kumari meditations, Sister Jayanti, if you go onto YouTube, you will find loads of these meditations, because some of you have said to me, you don't know how to converse with yourselves. So please do listen, and you'll get so much help. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Now, I know we talked about meditation and connecting to the one above. So there's this question. Maya is saying, unlike what you mentioned, this was, I think, half an hour ago in your talk, I do not get experiences of peace or happiness by thinking of them. I have tried BK meditation, but I feel nothing. What do I need to do?
Don't try the commentaries. Try coming back to your own inner journey. Let yourself realize that you're not this, that you are that inner being of light. Just go deeper and deeper inside yourself and just feel that difference between this, the chariot, the car, and this, the driver, the soul, the charioteer. Keep thinking about this and experimenting with this idea until you get that feeling. I am that eternal being of light. And once you've got there, then you can start thinking about, but what are the qualities of the eternal spirit, the eternal soul? And you'll begin to feel the peace. Om Shanti. I am a being of peace. My original state of being is peace. So just focus on that, these two things, going deeper and deeper inside and feeling how you are that inner living being. This body has biological life, but it's the soul that has that living consciousness of identity. The finger doesn't have the thought, I am a finger. I, the soul, have the thought, this is my body, this is my finger. And so just try and separate the inner being that you are away from the physical identity. That is very, very important. And that is what will open the door for further experiences of peace, of love, and all the things that you would like to experience in your life. The reason why we're running around searching for peace, we're running around trying to buy love, is because we don't realize it's there within us. We've forgotten we are souls. And in that physical consciousness that determines everything at the moment, where is the love? Where is the peace? It's not a physical entity that I can buy or find somewhere, but it is there within. There's the ancient story about the queen's necklace. She was looking for the necklace. She couldn't find it until somebody was sensible enough to say to her, hey, it's around your neck. Did you look there? And so for me, I'm looking for peace and I'm looking around outside. It's nowhere to be found because it is actually the quality of the living being within. And so find out more about soul consciousness. And we keep saying, find out more and experiment with this, experiment with that. But that's the only way that you'll be able to find out for yourself.
Thank you. All I would say, add to that, that was perfect, is that please be patient with yourself. Because I know some of you who've been with us just for a couple of weeks as well. They keep on thinking they've tried it today. And so within half an hour, they're going to be able to go to the next step. But please, it's taken us this long to be where we are. This is something we really need to go within for. So please give yourselves an opportunity. Spend as long as you need to until you feel the qualities of yourself, okay? Then we can come to the next stage. Thank you for that, Sister Jayanti. So, okay, Dipti is asking, she says, how does one deal with Lokic family? Children who are not on the spiritual path have a different way of looking at difficult situations. I have been trying to help them, but they are not understanding.
My role in my family is to be a stable anchor. And so it's not only they who are in a difficult situation, but you too, I imagine. Yes, they maybe are the ones who have to deal with work colleagues or with examinations at school and things like this. But whatever they're going through impacts you. And so what I need to do is first and foremost, just make sure I maintain total stability in terms of my peace and my truth and my consciousness of who I am, and bring God into the picture. And when you speak to them, see them as God's children. Whether it's your husband, whether it's your children, each one of them is a child of God. And see them here. Don't see them here, see them here. And speak to them about whatever it is you need to speak, not a lecture, not a moral admonition or anything like that, but just whatever normal. But within that, let there be love, but also see them with that vision of being a child of God. And cooking is a fantastic way to share vibrations. And so cook pure food in God's remembrance and serve it to them with love, with dignity. And those vibrations that you have filled with whilst you're cooking, that is going to reach them. You know, the way to the intellect is through the stomach. And I know that people have been transformed when they've eaten food that has been cooked in God's remembrance.
Definitely works. You know, the living proof here. I think I've shared that in the past. Okay, so this is an anonymous question from a brother. That's all I can say, he says. Okay, saying, since I have been on the spiritual journey, more negatives are erupting in me, especially anger. Why is that? No, nobody around me is seeing anything nice about me. If anything, I'm feeling more frustration now within myself as I am feeling how unjust my life was.
Until you open up the lid, you don't know what's inside. And so this is why I was talking about myself personally, that until I was, I think, about 23, I didn't know that I had any anger in me. And then, of course, circumstances and situations and the anger came out until the moment came when I realized how much sorrow it was causing others, but also me. And then I decided to take charge and transform it. And I think I've gone a long way in that journey. More to do, but certainly I've come a long way. So nobody knows what is there hidden away inside until they start opening it up, and then they recognize that, yes, this is something I need to deal with. So don't be shocked, don't be surprised, but yes, what you do have to do is make sure that you're dealing with your anger with God's love in such a way that your family sees that you have changed. Then they'll start supporting you. And if they're just seeing the anger, they'll tell you, why are you going there? It's not helping you, is it? But as you change and you take God's love and you share God's love with them, and God's love doesn't mean giving them a hug all the time. Yes, maybe once a day in the morning, good morning, or whatever it is. But God's love means being kind to them, being able to listen to them, being patient with them, understand them. And so as your nature gradually melts and is molded to its own original pure state, in that melting, they'll see a different experience of you, a different expression of you.
Beautifully put. Absolutely lovely. So Manoj is asking how to deal with your senior at the organization who makes false, critical comments about your work to the CEO during your yearly appraisal and desperately wants you out of the institution.
If there's a problem with your immediate superior, there's always someone above who you can have a chat with. Tell them you're not wanting to complain about anyone, but you're just aware that things are being more and more difficult. And so you need to have communication and contact with someone else. Position it in that way. Otherwise, they'll just label you as a critical person yourself and a complainer. But position it in that way that you really want to learn and move forward, but it feels as if everything is blocked at the moment. And so see what can happen, or even, if possible, change departments on the basis of that conversation with somebody more senior. Because yes, if somebody really wants you out of the way, it's not a very healthy situation to be in.
Yeah, lovely. Absolutely. So Brother Andre is writing, he says, the Brahma Kumaris helped me with 4 transformation practices. Number 1, I am a soul. Number 2, spend time in silence. Number 3, learn every day in study. And number 4, offer service whilst I am in this body. Well done, Andre, well done. Now, this, Sister Anne is saying, I think you talked earlier about, I think you talked more about being dependent and attached. But anyway, this is when her question came in. I definitely feel very connected in inverted commas with others. I am, I suppose, subtly dependent on my family, who has been with me since I remember. How do I disconnect internally from them? The relationship with God feels very unreal. It feels like I am pretending. Now, I know you mentioned something about that earlier, and I messaged her to say, does that answer your question? And she says, no, please say it again, read it out. So over to you, Ben.
The first point of detachment is the detachment from my own skin. It's not detachment from other people. And why it's difficult to detach from other people is because there isn't that experience of God's love. And so go back to basics and come back to not just the theory of the soul, but to actually feeling and being a soul. And once you've been able to come to that awareness and that understanding and that practice, then that detachment from your own skin allows you to make the connection with God become real and not imaginary. Because God is a soul, God doesn't have a body, full stop. And so while I'm still caught up in my physical identity, I'm not connecting, then it is imagination, it isn't real. But when I'm detached and I come to that experience of who I truly am, in the awareness of the soul, keep practicing this again and again and again. You're walking down the road, you're driving, you're cooking, whatever you're doing, who am I? Who am I? Discover the truth of this, the reality of this, then connect with Baba, connect with God, and you'll feel how God is able to reach you. Soul connects with Supreme Soul. While the rubber insulation is still on, the current can't flow. But you remove the rubber insulation and the wire is connected with the live, then that current is able to flow and you're able to feel the difference. And so don't worry about detaching from family at this point. First, just focus on detachment from your own body and connecting with God.
I think, like you mentioned earlier, be patient with yourself. These things don't just happen in 60 seconds or whatever, which I think a lot of us feel, but no, take time, and that's okay. But be soul connection to yourself, I think, is the most, once we master that, once we can actually experience that, the rest of it will fall in place. And that's a promise. But do try, give yourselves an opportunity for that. Okay, lovely. So Gina is saying, my son died last October, that's in 2021. How do I cope with the sadness and the change in myself?
there's something that I've always found very helpful, and that is to know that the soul is eternal, and wherever the soul may be, we don't know, but it's there. It hasn't gone away. It's eternal. It's constantly alive. And so the body has gone, but not the soul. And so my thoughts can reach that soul because we're intimately connected. But at this moment, if I allow the sadness to continue, then my sorrow is going to reach that soul, and that soul will also become unhappy. But if I can look at the positives of every situation, I don't know enough about your situation to point them out to you, but you think about what are the positives that have happened. Maybe your son was sick, and so he's now liberated from a sick body. Who knows? You know better than I do. But look at that and then say to yourself, I want to help that child now, wherever that child is, but I want to help that child. And so in God's remembrance, send out thoughts of love and God's light. And that soul will become more powerful and happier, wherever that soul may be. And you also will feel that you're contributing in a very positive way in supporting that soul on its journey. So I would recommend that you try this, and don't carry on with it forever and ever, but carry on with it for as long as it takes so that you don't feel sad. You have changed your heart, your attitude, and let God take care of that soul.
He will, and he does, and you will be okay. Okay, I think we don't have so much time, so 2 more questions. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. Retsin is asking, how can I keep relating to a family member who keeps lying?
It happens, and it happens to many, many people. And you just know that this is part of what it is they're struggling with, because they also are aware that this is their weakness. But you just look at their positives, all the good sides of their personality, and there must surely be many. And you continue to support them with love. And maybe there'll come a moment when they're ready to have a conversation with you, and you're able to talk to them about this particular habit that is causing a problem today and is going to cause them grief in the future if they continue with that. But that build-up of a connection of profound love has to be there before you take on that hard conversation.
Okay, so the next one, Retsin is asking, she says, this might sound like an odd question. Jenny, I beg your pardon. Does an older soul have a longer karmic account to clear than, say, a younger soul? Are new souls born with no karmic account at all? Thank you. Before I pass it over to Sister Jayanti, you need to take the Raj Yoga meditation course. Write to me and I will send you the links. But over to you, Ben.
You've sussed it out absolutely. When we say old soul, the soul's been around a long, long time on this planet and played its many, many different variety roles. And so, yes, it has more karma to clear than somebody who's come much later. And of course, a new soul who's only recently arrived on the planet hasn't had much opportunity to do very much. And so they have less karma to clear. But also want you to remember that the old souls are the powerful ones. So they have the capacity to deal with whatever comes their way. The new souls, they don't have that much power. Their capacity is very little. But anyway, from your question, it appears that you're definitely an old soul. So good luck.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just a quick comment by Magda. She's saying, thank you, Sister Jayanti, for reminding me of the importance of connecting, to the light while managing, unforeseen, unexpected situations. She says it's so easy to be pulled into old habits, just because you're busy being and doing. So wonderful. So big thanks to you. Last question. Okay, everyone, please don't type in any more questions. I will not be able to put them across to Sister Jayanti. So Riva is asking, at my job, I feel very tense. I feel the jobs. Okay, sorry, that's not very clear. But although my meditation, Raj Yoga practice is going wonderfully, but this one thing is not going away. Can you shine some light on it?
At the end of your meditation each day, just look at your work situation and ask yourself, what do you need to pay attention to make it a bit better? And so if you do this every day, it'll become very clear what are the things that you need to focus on to sort things out at work, because meditation does help you see things in a clearer way than otherwise. And so at work, early morning, after your meditation, just look at that and you'll get the answer of what you need to do, and just keep implementing that every day.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so what can I say? It's a very big heartfelt thanks to you, Sister Jayanti, from everyone here. You know, my dear brothers and sisters, to let you know, she has such a busy schedule, you cannot imagine. And we are so grateful that, you know, she's taken this time out to be with us, and we really appreciate it. In fact, she is wonderful. She makes sure that, you know, she gives us 2-3 sessions. So no, it's very important, and we do value it. And no, the whole group does. And okay, so I'd like to say thanks to all our translators. Can you all unmute your videos and audios? So we have Manuel, we have Eva, Pavitra, Mochis, Felisa, Marie, Hilal, and of course our sweet brothers in the IT, Rajesh Bhai and Anna Bhai, without whom we wouldn't quite be here. Okay, so Jayanti Ben, it's over to you now for the last meditation. But just before that, if I can quickly announce, next week on Tuesday, we have with us Yogesh Sharda. This is on 10th of May. And his topic is Life is a Mind Game. So you're very welcome to join us, and please pass this information to whoever you think would benefit, you know, by attending these. And I'm so happy that you're taking a lot of benefit. Over to you now, Sister Jayanti, for our final beautiful meditation that's going to take us flying. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Carry on sitting comfortably. And this will take just 2 minutes, so it's not long. But now I go on that inner journey. And I visualize a spark of light in the center of my forehead. And now it's not just a visualization, but now it's a feeling that I have. I am the inner being, a being of light, a being of love. And in this awareness of who I am, I feel the presence of the divine. And from the source of all positive attributes, peace surrounds me. I hold this peace, and I come back to the awareness of the present moment. But I still keep this awareness of I, the shining light, the being who is doing all the doing. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Sister Jayanti. Thank you to all of you coming from every part of the world. Take our love with you. Om Shanti, and we look forward to welcoming you on Tuesday. Bye, everyone.